Tragic South Korean plane crash claims 179 lives. On December 28, 2024, at 11:30 p.m. local time, a devastating plane crash occurred at Muan International Airport in South Korea, resulting in the deaths of 179 people, with only 2 survivors. The plane, a Jeju Air Boeing 737-800, failed to land properly due to a malfunction with its landing gear. The plane skidded off the runway, crashed into a concrete wall, and exploded. The wall was located 250 meters past the runway and was unmarked on airport charts, which made it difficult for the pilots to avoid. How could better marking of the runway hazards have prevented this tragedy? The plane had reportedly experienced a bird strike before the crash, which caused damage to its landing gear. The pilots struggled to control the aircraft during the approach and immediately reported issues with the landing gear. Despite their efforts, the plane failed to land safely and ultimately hit the concrete wall. The impact led to a massive explosion that caused immediate fatalities. Why was the damage from the bird strike not detected earlier by the pilots or crew? The airport's use of a rigid concrete wall to support a localizer sensor was called into question after the crash. Aviation experts have argued that the use of such a rigid structure, rather than a flexible or non-rigid barrier, increased the crash's severity. If the barrier had been more flexible, the damage could have been less catastrophic. How could flexible materials have minimized the damage caused by the crash? Jeju Air, the airline involved in the crash, issued a formal apology to the families of the victims. The airline also vowed to cooperate fully with investigators to determine the exact cause of the crash. They promised to provide financial and emotional support to the affected families. How can airlines ensure they are better prepared to support families in such devastating situations? This incident marks South Korea's worst domestic aviation disaster in recent history. Among the victims were passengers of all ages, including a 3-year-old boy and a 78-year-old woman. The crash has shocked the nation, and many families are now grieving the loss of their loved ones. What can be done to better protect passengers of all ages in the event of an emergency landing? A national mourning period was declared by the South Korean government, lasting for 7 days, as the country paid tribute to those lost in the tragedy. Memorial altars were set up nationwide, allowing people to honor the victims and show their support to the families. How can public mourning and remembrance help the nation heal after such a tragedy? As investigations continue, authorities have vowed to review safety procedures at Muan International Airport and other airports across the country. They will also be assessing the standards for runway markings and the safety of barriers near runways. How can the government improve its oversight of airports to prevent similar tragedies in the future? Jeju Air has been under intense scrutiny due to the crash, with critics questioning the airline's safety practices. The airline has promised to implement new safety protocols and review their emergency response systems. What role does the airline's internal safety culture play in preventing accidents like this? The cause of the crash is still under investigation, and it is expected that authorities will release a full report in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, South Korean officials have promised to cooperate with international aviation organizations to ensure that all factors leading to the crash are identified. What steps can authorities take to expedite the investigation while ensuring accuracy and thoroughness?